Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's we're going to be talking about the all-new 2023 Ford Super Duty because we finally have all of the official specs and pricing. Before we get into this video though, as always, if you're going to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. Let's get into it. Starting with the powertrain options, they're all paired to a 10-speed automatic transmission. It's not the same 10-speed, but they're all paired to 10-speed autos. Anyways, we have a new gas 6.8-liter V8 that produces 405 horsepower and then 445 pound-feet of torque. We still have the Godzilla V8, again, still a gas engine, 430 horsepower and then 485 pound-feet of torque, so it looks like torque is up by a slight amount. And then we have the regular output version of the 6.7-liter Power Stroke V8 diesel, still producing 475 horsepower and 1,050 pound-feet of torque. There's now a high output version of the Power Stroke that produces 500 horsepower and 1,200 pound-feet of torque. And yes, you can get the high output in the F250 as well as the F350 and the F450. When it comes to towing, the new Super Duty is pretty insane. With an F450 that's properly equipped, it can tow 40,000 pounds with a gooseneck trailer, and that's probably the headline figure you've been hearing all day long. Now, if you drop down to an F350, you can still tow like 38,000 pounds. Now, conventional tow rating is still 30,000 pounds, which is absolutely massive. And the other headline rating that you guys have been hearing is 8,000 pounds of payload capacity, again, when properly equipped. But here's the deal. You're probably not going to be buying an F450 that is a single cab and has two-wheel drive. You're probably going to buy an F250 or an F350 that has the crew cab configuration, and maybe you'll get the 8-foot bed, but you'll probably get like the 6.5-foot bed. And so with those configurations, you're still going to be able to tow a pretty large amount. So depending on exactly the powertrain that you add to the truck and everything, you're going to be anywhere from the low 20s with the gas powertrains to mid 20s with the diesel powertrains, and even high 20s if you go up to the F350, again with a configuration that most of you are actually going to purchase. And then if you jump over to the payload side of things, we're still looking at payload capacities in the 4,000 to 6,000 pound range, again depending on the exact options you add to your truck. So even with a normal truck that most of you are going to buy, the new Super Duty is still insanely capable. And these new insane capacities with towing, payload, and then obviously the crazy power outputs with the engine are on top of all the other changes that are coming with the new Super Duty. So the new exterior styling, the new interior that is very similar to the new generation F-150. So 12-inch display that you could actually get in a 2022, so that's not too new. But digital gauge cluster and some higher up packages, the new workbench center console, which actually playing with that in the configurator, it's somewhat hard to add with certain packages, which is kind of frustrating, and I'm sure that some people are also going to be frustrated with that when they're actually building out their Super Duties. But anyways, it basically gets all the technology that the 1500 has and some more, because it's got like the onboard scales from the F-150 Lightning. You've got the Pro Power on board, which again, that's just regular F-150 stuff. So all you need to know in this section of the video is that this is not just like new powertrain territory. This is a new truck inside and out, just like the F-150 we got for the 2021 model year. As you can see, Ford's whole build-in price is already up, and so you can see the starting MSRP, $43,970 if you do a regular cab F250 XL. But again, unless you're basically buying a work truck for your construction company, that's probably not the truck you're going to buy. So you're most likely going to buy a crew cab. So if we just filter out crew cab, you guys can see the starting MSRP with some of the different trucks once you throw in the crew cab configuration. And yeah, you can see the starting price there on some of the packages. It gets pretty crazy. And then once you pop over to the F350, yeah, it starts to get pricey pretty quick. And so look at this, F450 Limited starting at $103,000. But of course, I wasn't lazy. I actually did some builds for you guys. So I did like what I call the max towing build. And so what this is it is an F450. And you guys can see right up here, regular cab. And I added quite a bit of stuff just to make this fully set up for towing. So like the fifth wheel setup, 360 cameras, like anything you'd need for towing. And this is what the price came out to be. So if you're just looking for like a dedicated tow rig $78,945 is what you're going to be paying for that. Now, I did another truck, and this particular one is basically, as you can see, a Lariat package, and I didn't really dress it up with the outside. I just kind of did, just a regular Lariat that you'd probably see in a Ford dealership's lot, and I'm guessing this is probably the most common truck that people purchase. So F350 Lariat. And I added all the stuff that, people would probably add. So like, towing technology, FX4, Lariat Ultimate, again, the stuff that I typically see at dealerships when I review new Fords. And this is what the price came out to be. So $86,530 for, again, your stereotypical Lariat that most people are going to purchase. And then, of course, we got to go for just all-out expense. So this is an F450 Limited, and I didn't load it up with every single possible option you could add to the configurator. I did, again, what people would probably add if they were to buy one of these crazy F450s. And you can see there, total MSRP, $107,850. Now, some of you might be experiencing sticker shock at this point, but the new Super Duty actually isn't all that much more expensive compared to the outgoing 2022. And I'm guessing that's because Ford already increased the prices so much on the 22s that they didn't really need to increase the price all that much on this new 23. And so you're basically going to get all the benefits of this new truck and pay about the same amount as what you would pay for an equivalent 22. But that is obviously before dealer markups, because just like any new product that comes out of Ford's gates, it is for sure going to have huge markups at Ford dealers with the initial trucks, especially if it has that new high output power stroke, because that engine is going to be more of a novelty upon initial release. Like, everyone's just going to want to say that they have a diesel truck from the factory with 1,200 pound-feet of torque, which again is fantastic, but yeah, it's going to be one of those flex pieces for the first few months, and then I'm sure the pricing will start to somewhat normalize, but don't expect to see any sort of discounts on this truck. Like, what is most likely going to happen is over MSRP for the first few months, and then you'll probably be able to find a deal at sticker after that, and you're not going to get any discount or sticker. So those prices you see on the website, that is what you're going to be just plan to pay that for the new Super Duty if that's what you're going for. And then moving from that, I do want to mention that I am actually really excited about this truck and how it's going to drive, not because of the power, but because of the comfort and just overall drivability. Because when Ford released the new 2021 F-150, on the surface, it didn't look like it was a big change. Like, it looks slightly different compared to the 2020, but it didn't look like that much different. And then I got to see one in person, and I realized, oh, the interior is way nicer. And, this new Super Duty is going to have the same interior as the F-150, so it's not going to be as much of a shock, right? Because we're already kind of used to this new F-Series interior. But the biggest shock that I had was driving the new F-150, because I drove it and I was like, whoa, the suspension's so much more compliant, the steering's so much better, like the truck is way quieter, everything about the truck was so much better. And again, it didn't look like it was that big of a change on the surface. It was kind of a sleeper. I think that Ford's kind of doing that with a lot of their new vehicles, is they're not changing the exterior as much as they are changing, kind of like the driving experience. They're taking like the Porsche way of doing things, where you make the car look the same, but then it drives completely different. I think this new Super Duty is going to be in that same territory, where the steering's probably going to be way better. The suspension's probably going to be way more compliant. Like, it's just going to drive a lot better compared to the previous Super Duty. And so a lot of people are probably going to sit back and wait, and then people are going to start driving it, and people like me are going to start reviewing it, and then we're going to talk about how great this is, and then people are going to all jump on the Super Duty bandwagon, and they're going to realize that they should have just ordered it right out of the get-go, especially if they could have gotten a deal at MSRP. And so my recommendation is, if you can get one of these new Super Duties at MSRP, especially that new high output powertrain, then I would get one now before Ford increases the pricing next quarter, because there's so much demand for the vehicle. I mean, look what they've done with their other product, like the F-150 Lightning, for example. Ford has increased the price on that several times since release because of quote-unquote demand. So the same thing's going to happen with the Super Duty. So the prices that we see today will probably not be the prices we see in 3 to 6 months after everyone realizes how good this truck is once we are able to drive it. Just my friendly recommendation. You can ultimately do whatever you want. That's pretty much going to sum things up for today's video. Let me know what you guys think about this new Super Duty, and if you're planning on getting it, or if you're going to wait to see what Ram does, because seriously, RIP Ram and RIP General Motors. I mean, GM's new Duramax powertrain, right? It's almost 500 horsepower, and it's almost 1,000 pound-feet of torque, but yeah, nowhere near what this new Power Stroke is putting out. And then Ram, their high output Cummins, 1,075 pound-feet of torque, but Yeah, it's just crazy to see what's happening, because at this point GM is just on the sidelines, and now we're all just going to have to patiently wait and see what Ram does with their truck as they, release new versions of the Cummins. And so, yeah, it's exciting to see what's happening with the torque wars. Anyways, I'll see ya.